To formally open this event, may I call on the Licensing Director of Good Governance Committee, Ms. Edita V. Estacio.
Thank you, Elros. A pleasant afternoon, FINEX members, friends, and guests. First of all, thank you for attending, whether here in person at the SGV Museum or via Zoom, Day 2 of the FINEX Week, Climate Risks and Opportunities, Building Climate Change Resilience, where we will cover a very exciting and timely topic on climate change. You will all agree that this is a very relevant topic, especially in the Philippines, as the Philippines is highly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. This afternoon, we are honored to have with us Mr. Benjamin Villacorte, Head of the Philippine Financial and Sustainability Reporting Council, Mr. Francisco Paco Magsaysay, founder of everybody's favorite ice cream, Carmen's Best, Ms. Anne Dumaliang, co-founder and managing trustee of the Masungi Geo-Reserve Foundation, and Mr. Rudy Ramin, commercial director of PCX. Thank you for accepting our invitation to share your experience and expertise with us through this event as we celebrate FINEX Week. We would like to thank our sponsors for today's session. SGV, for letting us use this lovely SGV Museum, and Carmen's Best, for the best ice cream in town. Your support goes a long way for FINEX. And to our speakers, thank you again for accepting our invitation and for sharing your knowledge and time. Good afternoon, and we hope that we will all have an informative and engaging event this afternoon. At this point, let me thank our sponsors for this 56th FINEX Week conference. So this conference would not have been possible if not for the following sponsors. Platinum sponsors, Ayala Land Inc., Forecasting and Planning Technologies Inc., and Shell Pilipinas Corporation. Our diamond sponsors, Blackline in partnership with IT Group Inc., PlanView and Stronghold Insurance Incorporated. Our gold sponsors, Ace and Res, AC Health, Asticom, your digital first shared services and outsourcing partner, BDO Unibank Inc., Bank of the Philippine Islands, Deloitte Philippines, KPMG RG Manabat and Company, Landco Pacific, Land Bank of the Philippines, Landers Superstore, Metrobank, Oceana Gold, PwC Philippines, Romulo Mabanta Sayok and De Los Angeles, Security Bank, SGV and Company, Sun Life Investment and Trust Management Corporation, UBS, and Vivant Corporation. Our patron sponsors, Aboitiz Power, Accenture Philippines, BPI MS Insurance, Converge ICT Solutions, DeMark Beauty, East West Bank Corporation, Ipsos Inc., Liberty Insurance Inc., Malayan Insurance Inc., McDonald's Philippines, MWell, FTI Consulting Inc., Ovia Land, Philippine Equity Partners, PNA Grant Thornton, Regis Partners, San Miguel Corporation, and Unilab, Alagang Tunay, Alagang Pilipino, Alagang Unilab yan. Our minor sponsors, Crystal Blue, Flight Travel Express, Gardenia, Isla Petroleum and Gas Corporation, Jollibee Foods Corporation, Metro Pacific Tollways Corp., Nature Tint, PBCom, ST Telemedia, and Santa Lucia Land. We would also like to thank our official media partners, Business World, Manila Bulletin, The Manila Times, Philippine Star, our official TV partner, ANC, and our technology partner, GlueUp. Again, thank you and a good afternoon to everyone.
Okay, thank you, Edith. We acknowledged also the presence of the board, Mr. Toti Benzon, Ms. Minion Ramos, Mr. Tony Boyong Shaco, Ms. Edith Estacio, Sir Joey Gomez, Edith Dichao, and Flor Terilla. Now, let me call on the FINEX Foundation trustee, Attorney Ebot Tan, to introduce our keynote speaker and panelists. Let's give a hand of applause, please.
Thank you very much, Ross. The officers and directors of the various FINEX organizations, fellow FINEX members, ladies and gentlemen. Our keynote speaker, Benji Villacorte, is the head of the Philippine Financial and Sustainability Reporting Council. He is a partner with Financial Accounting and Advisory Services team of SGV under Assurance. He graduated from the San Beda College with a Bachelor of Science degree in Accountancy and completed the Columbia Essentials of Management program at the Columbia University Graduate School of Business in New York, USA, and the Applied Data Science program under the Columbia Engineering Executive Education program. Benji marked ranked third in the CPA board examinations. He is a CPA and a member of PICPA. Benji has led audits of publicly listed companies in the power utilities, real estate, retail, education, healthcare, telecommunications, and semiconductor industries. As a trusted advisor, he has also provided accounting support and advice to various local and ASEAN clients on audit remediation and readiness, new accounting standards, transaction accounting and digital finance transformation, data analytics and visualization, robotics, process automation. He currently heads the Asia Pacific FAAS hub in Manila, which assists onshore EY teams in delivering quality services to their clients. Benji is a resource person on IFRS, and as a member of the Capital Markets Group, he is well versed in capital markets transactions, cross-border and local. He is part of SGV's Accounting Standards Group and is a subject matter resource on leases and revenue, being a member of EY's Asia Pacific subject matter groups on these areas. He is a regular lecturer in external and internal IFRS training seminars. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Benjamin Villacorte.
Piano. Thank you, EVT, and good afternoon, everyone. So, Monday ngayon, no? Today is Monday. Tuesday. So I've lost track of the days in a week. So normally on Mondays, the result of the PGA tournament or LPGA comes out. So we normally know the champion over the weekend. So I think on day 3, after Saturday game, Dottie, our lady golfer who represented us in the Olympics, was on the top. Number 1 siya. And I think following her was some players from Thailand, and of course the other big players in the LPGA field. But what happened is on Monday, he ranked 44th. No? Parang on the last day, nagkaroon siya ng meltdown. But in addition to that LPGA game, something happened over the weekend as well. I don't know if you know Augusta National. That's where the players, the Masters tournament are held annually. So it's a well-loved course. But unfortunately, last weekend, there was no tournament. Now, what happened was a typhoon. It's a category 4 typhoon that ravaged the Augusta National Course. So I think parang category 4, so that's Typhoon Helene. Okay. So why I'm saying that is because I guess for us that's nothing new. It's business as usual for us to have typhoons, and recently we also have extreme heat. But what we don't realize, it has economic costs. Okay, and it's good that we have finance people here. So climate events should not be discussed among sustainability practitioners anymore. No, I guess more and more finance people, accountants should be involved, because we really have to put numbers. We have to keep track how much money are we losing because of this. We may not realize it because we're so used to it, but the reality is we're losing money because of climate events every day. And not just losing money, but also the related opportunity cost. So that's what I want to discuss this afternoon. Uh, the introductions would, of course, discuss some developments from the standards, but I don't want you to look at this from a standard point of view. No? So this is not another report that companies should submit to the regulators or to your other stakeholders, but we need to appreciate climate resiliency as part of an organization's resilience, as part of an organization's risk management. So for sure, many organizations would have their traditional normal risk management exercise. But now it has evolved to really expand and consider climate related risk and opportunities. Okay, so that's what I want to, I guess, discuss in 15 minutes. Naka 5 minutes na yata ako. So in 10 minutes, how to use the standards, no? Because the standards would provide you framework, it would provide you tools how to use that, not just to comply with regulatory requirements, but also for the company's risk management to build its resilience for generations to come. Okay, so sige, let's get to it. Saan ba ito ituturo? Ayun yan, Jacob. Ayun, okay. So, just very quickly, so we have an IFRS on sustainability, S1, S2. So, of course, many jurisdictions have started to adopt either this year or next year. So, Philippines will be one of these countries, okay? So, we will use IFRS not just for financial reporting, but also for sustainability reporting, okay? And the reason we want to use IFRS for both documents is because we want to see connectedness of information. So I think right now, I'm sure many of the organizations you represent would have financial statements, and they would also have sustainability reports. And sometimes the information in these two documents do not really complement each other. Okay, so we want a holistic narrative about the company, and especially about the risk and opportunities. Okay, so just a very quick timeline of activities. So, so our committee, it was created November 2022, and our mandate is really to look after the adoption of IFRS in the Philippines for sustainability reporting. So right now, we have actually endorsed to the Financial and Sustainability Reporting Council, and I recall they are already drafting the letter to endorse this roadmap to the Board of Accountancy. And what we recommended is for Tier 1 publicly listed companies, we start to adopt IFRS 2025, and for large corporations, large corporations would be those with revenue equal to or higher than 10 billion pesos. So they will adopt 2027. Okay, so this is the version we endorse. But last week, are you also members of the ACPAP or public practice pala yun, no? So Association of CPAs in Public Practice. So they held their annual convention last week, Thursday, Friday, in Baguio. Okay, and one of the speakers was the SEC chair, si Chair Emil Aquino, And what he presented is some would have some deviation from what we endorse. So in his presentation, tier 1 would be 2026. Okay. And I think that deviation was a result of, I think we wrote a letter to SEC together with the Makati Business Club, was it? And ICD. So they have considered that appeal, that letter. And because of that, they are moving the effective date of the standard to 2026. No? So later by a year. And the SEC chair also mentioned that as far as the sure form is concerned, there have been a lot of modifications also to really simplify compliance of that sure form. Okay, but of course we'll have to wait for SEC's formal response and announcement on the revised sure form. Okay, but I guess that's good news for everyone already. Okay, so S1, S2, so as mentioned, S1 would contain the general requirements. So it's like the foundational standard. And S2 is the first topic standard, which deals with climate. Okay, so S1, I'll not go over this. No, it would contain the 4 pillars expected. No? So governance, strategy, risk management, metrics, and targets. And also it would have the qualitative characteristics. No? So a lot of this you I guess realize it's very the same as the principles we see in our financial reporting standards. Okay, so I'll not dwell on that. Okay, so S2, I guess this is the topic. It's about climate-related risk and opportunities. And when we talk about climate risk, so there are 2 main types of climate risk. So you have your physical risk, and that's the direct impact of severe climate events. So that's what we observe. And transition risk would be driven by policies, legal or technological changes as the I guess the global economy transitions to a lower carbon economy. Okay, so acute risk, climate risk, I guess we don't have to define that, but again, physical risk would be the direct impact of climate risk. And transition risk, I guess one example would be carbon taxation. So in ASEAN, I think Singapore, I'm not sure if Malaysia, Indonesia have it already, but they have introduced carbon taxation. So that means if your businesses are carbon intensive, that means your cost of operations would be costlier. Okay, but in the Philippines, I don't think that's the direction we will take, because obviously carbon taxation will contribute to inflation, because of course it will be passed on to the end customers, diba? If you have additional costs. So what the lawmakers are thinking would be a cap and trade mechanism. Okay, because the Philippines as a nation, we have a budget, no? A carbon emissions budget, and that budget will be allotted, distributed to different sectors. Okay, and for each sectors, of course, each company will also have an allocation. Okay, so if you fall short, that means it's good because you didn't reach your cap. So that deficit, you'll be able to trade that. Okay, so it's an additional revenue stream for the company. Okay, so the buyers of the carbon credits would be those companies that are would be very difficult to abate their emissions. Now, for example, airlines industry, logistics. Okay, so no matter what they do, they will always have that positive emission. So that's how that will evolve. It will create a carbon market in the Philippines. So what I know, because 2 weeks ago in the Net Zero Carbon Alliance, the co-author of that low carbon economy bill, si Congressman Alba, presented that it passed already the committee level. So that means it will be presented to the plenary already, the House level. Okay, so something to watch out. Okay, but climate is not all about risk. Okay, so we also have to look at opportunities. So definitely there are cost savings. For example, in SGB, we are powered by renewable. Okay, and I think many buildings already comply also with energy efficiency law. Okay, so that's one. And other opportunities would be, of course, carbon markets. No? So that's what we don't, I guess, maximize at this point. But globally, there will be a lot of demand. No? So earlier I talked about sectors, but if you appreciate it at a global scale, countries also would have difficulty meeting net zero targets, no? Because they have very advanced industries already, you know, so they have very heavy manufacturing, etc. So they cannot really reduce their carbon emissions. So what they need would be offsets, no? So credits. So that's where I guess the opportunity comes in. And if only we can, I guess, maximize that as a country and also the private sector to invest in this, we call it nature-based solutions. No? So reforestation, even renewable energy, you can be entitled to renewable energy credits. Or if you shorten the life of a coal power plant, you'll be entitled also to transition credits. So all these are instruments that can be traded globally, and there are buyers for that. And the incentive, of course, it creates financing, a replacement revenue for, I guess, the revenue that would be forgone from the traditional business. Okay, so this is an illustration of how we connect climate risk and opportunities to financial statements. So risk and opportunities would have impact on your strategic planning, risk management, and obviously it can be translated to financial impact. Okay, so revenues, of course, if you have interruption of operations or expenditures, no, in terms of insurance costs, repairs because of damages, and in terms of balance sheet, if you need to make refurbishment or retrofit investments to fortify your facilities, so that would have impact as well on the balance sheet. And market, of course, sustainable companies would be preferred, no? So it would normally outperform non-ESG companies. Okay, so these are risk and potential impact. I guess these are very self-explanatory for finance people. I'll not go through them anymore. Opportunities, I mentioned some of them already. Okay, so just before I wrap up, so in terms of global adoption, so this is a survey conducted by EY. Before IFRS, there was TCFD already. So TCFD is Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. And what they have observed from filings is only 33% of 1,500 companies have really referenced climate-related risk and opportunities in their disclosures. Okay, either quantitatively or qualitatively. I guess the percentage is even smaller of those companies who were able to quantify the risk and opportunities. Okay, and that is surprising and a serious concern, because by now the expectation is this should have been part already, clearly and firmly embedded in the company's risk management exercise. So that's what I guess I want to really impart. Let's not leave climate-related risk and opportunities to the sustainability team. No? So we are accountants, we are finance people, and our key strength is putting numbers to risk and opportunities. And the good thing is when we are able to put numbers, the owners and the investors would listen, and they will be, I guess, forced to act on this risk and opportunities. So otherwise, sometimes it becomes just a noise, no? Like parang ano lang, it's a fad, but these are real risks and opportunities, especially if we are able to put some numbers to this risk and opportunities. Okay. So this is an example of a climate resilience assessment. Okay, so based on historical information and also climate data from Pag-asa, and there are also international suppliers of climate data, we look at the exposure of a company. So what's the location of your assets, of your, business critical assets to your operations? So we can do that for your assets. We can also do that for your key suppliers, for your key customers also, because definitely if one of them will be impacted, it will have severe impact on the financial statements. Okay. So for some, we can extend the assessment to look at the structural impact. Okay, so we look at the building structure, okay, based on assessment from structural engineers. No, how strong or how resilient are these infrastructure? No, so if they comply with a certain building code or even above the minimum standard. Okay, and with that, with that information, we are able to assess what are your risk mitigation options. Do you invest in that asset? Okay, introduce some strengthening the infrastructure to reduce vulnerability, or in some cases you let the insurance cover, no? So the residual risk, no? So that's, I guess, one strategy. So either you mitigate the risk, okay, based on the information you have, or you transfer that through some insurance policies. And the good thing is, if the insurance companies would know that you have this assessment, you have better way to negotiate for premiums. Okay, so what's this? So IFRS, this is for financial reporting. So it's also being updated to make sure that they consider uncertainties coming from this climate related and other uncertainties in the financial statements. Okay, so what that means is there is really expectation of alignment between your climate related disclosures and the risk and estimates that you put in your financial statement. So I guess one simple example would be your impairment assessment. Okay, so for example, if you're certain using technology that you know will be eventually be obsolete because of certain regulations, so that should impact your projections. No? Another example would be assessment of useful life. Okay, so final point, I guess this is my last slide, and I've emphasized this well already. So there needs to be stronger connection between the F of financials and ESG. Otherwise, the true costs and opportunities of business aren't properly measured. So I guess that's really my key message today, is really to put numbers to climate related risk and opportunities. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Benji. At this point, allow me to introduce our panelists, who each have 10 minutes for their respective messages. A Q&A session will immediately follow after the last panelist speaker. First, we have Mr. Francisco Paco Magsaysay, the founder, brainchild, and multi-awarded entrepreneur behind Carmen's Best Ice Cream. Here are some of the awards he has won running Carmen's Best. The 2018 Agora Award for Outstanding Achievement in Entrepreneurship, Medium Enterprise. The 2022 Mansmith Innovation Award, Enterprise Innovator for Product Innovation. the 2022 Italian Chamber of Commerce Emerging Entrepreneur of the Year, and the Ernst Young SGV 2022 Entrepreneur of the Year, Small Business Entrepreneur of the Year. Very little is known about the fact that he also runs a successful cable TV and broadband company called Asian Vision, which operates mostly in the provinces of Batangas, Quezon, and Zambales. After graduating from the University of St. Thomas in the US, where he earned a bachelor's degree in marketing, he came back home and promptly took over the business reins of Asian Vision from his father, the country's cable TV pioneer Ramon Magsaysay Jr., who then just won his first term as senator back in 1995. Since then, he has served as Asian Vision's president and chief executive officer and continues to lead its steady growth as a local cable TV provider for almost 50 years. Second, we have Ms. Anne Demalyang, a managing trustee of the Masuni Geo-Reserve Foundation, a conservation project powered by geotourism, education, and sustainable development located in Baras, Rizal. In 2015, Anne founded the Masuni Geo-Reserve Foundation, which has received various accolades from destination stewardship from the World Travel and Tourism Council in 2018, and sustainable tourism citations from the United Nations World Tourism Organization in 2019. In 2021, Masuni won the top prize in Global Water Partnership's inaugural Water Change Maker Awards for powering, overcoming inertia, and forming collaborations in watershed rehabilitation. Most recently, the foundation won under the Inspire category in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Action Awards 2022, held in Bonn, Germany. Anne is also a National Geographic Explorer and Ashoka Fellow, and has represented Masuni at the 27th United Nations Climate Change Conference in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. We also have Mr. Rudy Ramin, who, the commercial director of PCX. Rudy is a business builder with over 20 years of experience in marketing, sales, finance, and general management across technology, consumer goods, and professional services. Began as an auditor at KPMG, then moved to Unilever and Kraft Foods Mondelez, handling brands like Lipton, Knorr, and Oreo across the Asia Pacific. In 2014, he joined Google as brand solutions expert for the region. From 2016, he co-founded several tech startups in the field of personal development, e-commerce, and mental health. In 2013, he joined PCX to help companies in their plastic responsibility journey. I suppose we call first on Paco, and then Anne, and then Rudy. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Attorney Tan. It's always hard to talk right after lunch and get the attention of everyone. But right after lunch this afternoon, I was upstairs and Edith asked me if this was my first time here. And it made me think of the times that I've been to this unit of the SGV group. The first time was actually in 2014. It was the birthday of Wash, and George called me to make ice cream cake. So Reggie, this is the first time Carmen's Best made an ice cream cake, and this is what it looked like. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah. So that's the ice cream cake we made for Wash. Oh, here, it's here. So that's the chocolate. The first one is the fruit, the other one. That one. So I brought this here. This was June of 2014. And yeah, so I was part of the catering group. I was not invited to the party of Wash. But, so I was in the back in the kitchen at that time. So now I'm here in the main area. But the second time I came here was in was in 2019. So in 2019, Itos Cruz connected me to Martin Lorenzo, and Itos hosted the dinner here, and we had a picture right there. So that's where we had our picture. And this was in 2019. Martin felt that Carmen's Best was a little small for his liking. And, two and a half years later, we got to talk to Sir MVP and we did a deal with them. So it's funny how things happen, but I think everything happens for a reason. I'm actually here to talk about sustainability and Carmen's Best. And I told Reggie, I don't normally talk about sustainability. So I needed help with my content today. So he was very efficient and helpful in giving me topics on what I could talk about with regards to Carmen's Best and sustainability. So before I start, Carmen's Best is named after my only daughter, Carmen, because some people still don't know that. So I named it after my daughter, Carmen. She's the third of three children, and she's now based in New York. She's working there. And it was Wash Sisip who wrote a letter of recommendation to Fordham University, which is why she got a little bit of help to get into Fordham with the letter of Wash. So thank you so much to Wash. But today here with regards to sustainability in ice cream industry, I'll talk about three main things, which is climate change and ingredient sourcing for ice cream. The second one will be sustainable practices in ice cream manufacturing. And the third would be eco-friendly packaging in the ice cream industry. So for climate change and ingredient sourcing, as you all know, the basis of our business was because my father and his friends started a dairy farm. So it was from the dairy farm that we started the ice cream business about 2 years after. In fact, one of your members, si Attorney Val Suarez, was our lawyer who incorporated Carmen's Best dairy products with the SEC in 2009. So when we incorporated in 2009, we actually went to market 2 years after. But it was always difficult dealing with livestock and the ups and downs of climate or the weather. When it was too hot during summers, the output of the cows would be very different. During the cooler months, which were the burn months, we would have more milk, excess milk. But the problem was the peak season of ice cream is during summer months. And that's when we had low output for the cows. When it was higher output during the burn months, when it was colder, that's when our sales would go a little bit down because we really don't sell as much ice cream during November, December, during Christmas. It's not really a good gift to give, having to be frozen. The other issue with regards to ingredients that we were sourcing were the vanilla Madagascar and Tahitian vanilla beans, the cacao that we were buying. So these are grown in countries that are really susceptible to climate change. In 2015, my father was director of East West Seed, and I was introduced to this company, and they were promoting this Dulce F1 muskmelon. I don't think you know this, but we tried to come up with a melon flavor ice cream. But it was so challenging working with not necessarily the farmer, but it was connected to the weather, the climate. So if you notice in the top picture on the right side, they have to really limit the amount of water that goes to the fruit when it's growing under the soil. So when it's rainy season, there's too much water and they could not grow melon. So I only had a window of 4 or 5 months during the year to make this flavor using fresh fruit. And the other problem was the yield of the fruit was only about 60 to 70% for every fruit, but they were charging me for the whole fruit. So I said I can only yield about 60 to 70%, but they were charging me 100% of the total weight of the fruit. No? But I said, give or take 10-15%, I'm willing to do that. But the fact that they didn't want to give me a break with the costing of the fruit, it was a little bit challenging on our side. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's hard dealing with fresh, and sometimes it's easier dealing with a processed product or a paste, which is what we use for some of our flavors. Here you see the strawberries that we use. Disclaimer: that's an old logo. That was the logo that I used, but now they have a different logo now. So I couldn't find the picture. Sorry, Reggie. Tell the guys in Metro Pacific. And then if you notice, there's the vanilla bean on the top left side. And for the nuts, I'm not sure if you noticed, but with the nuts, we would cut it 50% in big pieces and 50% in small pieces, because we wanted to have a different experience or a different feel with the ice cream. Not many people talk about that, but these were the little things that we used to do to make our product a little bit different from the rest. The next item would be regarding manufacturing or logistics. And initially what we did was, when we would start closing accounts in the early years of Carmen's Best, we would deliver per area. So because the traffic was so bad, we would deliver in Makati a certain day, in Pasay a certain day, in Quezon City a certain day, because we couldn't just afford to have trucks going back and forth. We only had 2 trucks when we started. So we decided to deliver per area. So it cut down on fuel consumption, and it cut down also on overtime for our drivers. For the packaging, we started with plastic packaging. In fact, the first plastic packaging I purchased, I didn't realize it was not freezer safe. So when I put the ice cream in the freezer, and then when I pulled it out, it was cracking because it was not freezer safe. I did not know there was a difference. But apparently there's a difference with the type of plastic they use for freezer temperature. And here, we would also handwrite the flavors. Can you read the flavors? No. Dark chocolate. We also have I think we have an eggnog in the back there. But eggnog is a seasonal flavor now. It's only for Christmas. Before I end, I'd like to say that my son and I, Jaime, were in the dinner in New York with Wash in 2016. And the year after that, when they were flying back to New York to attend the dinner in 2017, that's when he passed in the flight. So George pulled me aside and he said, in the airplane, he was seated beside his father. And when Wash did not take the ice cream, he knew that there was something wrong. But Wash went to sleep, and then that's when he passed away. So even in his last moments, parang we were sort of there with him in the flight. So a lot of good things to say about Sir Wash. He was with the Magsaysay Foundation for many years. And last story with Wash, because I would travel with him when he would go around with us in the Magsaysay Foundation. He told me in 1957, March 17, the day that my lolo's plane crashed in Cebu, he was waiting for my lolo in Laguna with Secretary Yulo, because Secretary Yulo was the finance secretary at that time. And they were with Howard Helm of the Chemical Bank, which is now Chase Bank. So it was Secretary Yulo, Sir Wash Sisip, and Howard Helm that were waiting for my lolo. That Sunday lunch of March 17. Kasi the plane of my lolo crashed about 1 a.m. of March 17 in Cebu. So naghihintay sila doon, not knowing that the plane crashed. And then when they found out that the plane was found. Yeah, so he told me that story more than once. As you know, he was repeating stories already. But yeah, that's a story that I never forgot that he told me. So thank you again for inviting me this afternoon, and I hope I was able to help you guys with our sharing of Carmen's Best. Thank you.
Ako, I was engrossed in your talk. I forgot to take your photos. I'm so sorry. I hope someone else did take the photos for you. At least I have one, no? Hello, everyone. I'm Anne. I am from Masumichi Reserve. I've met several of you in the past. And I'd like to thank you for inviting us to talk about Masungi and our experiences in conservation. So whereas, we've been talking about finance in the past couple of minutes, I'd like to take you all the way to the forest and to the watersheds, which our cities also depend on, no? And bring you to the realities of these places, particularly that of Masungi, which is in fact a microcosm of all the opportunities and the challenges that we face when it comes to securing our life-giving ecosystems. So I am, paano to? Yeah, okay. I think I'm gonna need some help here. Okay, yeah, so I think we had enough of an introduction a while ago. And this foundation that I founded is hinged on the protection of limestone karst pinnacles, just an hour and a half away from Metro Manila, using education and sustainable development, primarily creative engineering and geotourism as a vehicle. And this is something that we actually started, my dad started a while back in the 1990s when he first arrived in this place. And after over 2 decades of protecting the area, something that they were already able to transform into a forest cover that looks like this. So hopefully showing that really within our lifetimes, we can create lush forests, bring back ecosystems that we thought we've already lost. And if you look at Masungi now, it's home to about 800 documented forms of life, including this purple jade vine, which was only discovered in 2015, located only in 4 areas in the Philippines with the most profuse blooms in Masungi. It's already home to actually 102 species of birds that call it home, making it closer to the sanctuary that we want it to be. Even when it comes to snails, no, mga suso, we have 47 kinds, the highest documented number of species in an area of snails, with one of our own called H.L. masungiensis. This one you will find only in Masungi and in no other location. And even 30 species of bats, including the first record of flying foxes in the province of Rizal. So a lot of animals already, a lot of biodiversity already call this place as home. And I'd like to highlight that this is something that is very precious for the Philippines because we're one of 17 megadiverse countries of the world. These 17 countries host 70% of the unique forms of life all over the world. So we're really the treasure trove of biodiversity, not just because we're the Philippines, no, but because that's our unique contribution as a country to the entire world. So paano tayo umabot sa puntong to? Very quickly, as I said, it started with my dad. In the 1990s, ako yon yung nakasombrero na naka-yellow up front. And the most contribution I had was magliwaliw at maglaro with the goats in the area. It was really him and his small team of engineers who made it happen in the early years. And really, it started as an engineering project of theirs that they consciously pivoted towards a restoration project when they finally found an opportunity to. Now, forgoing a lot of the traditional ways of making use of the land and instead appreciating what a natural heritage this location truly is. In 2015, that's when my sister and I came along. So we launched the Masungi Geo Reserve. And the reason why we did this was because growing up with this place, it pained us to think that it could disappear being so close to Metro Manila. And I remember saying that if we're not able to do what it takes, try our best to conserve this place, it will be a regret of a lifetime for us. So that was the intent, to have more people learn to love this area that we've learned to love. To, of course, create more financing mechanisms so that we can continue protecting the place. And the big challenge for Masungi now, which some of you have already been asking me about earlier, pertains to this landmark reforestation agreement that we entered into in 2017 with then Secretary Gina Lopez, which is really an attempt to restore more land around our initial area, comprising the spine of the entire rock formation, covering about 2,700 hectares, and covering portions of a critically deteriorated watershed. And this we were doing at no cost to government and at no compensation to Masungi. So if you look at why it needs to be protected, I'd love to invite you over later. I also brought a VR headset, no? If you want to look at it mamaya. But if you look at the area, it looks like that. It might look green, but it's covered in bamboo and grass. And it's critically deteriorated to the extent that many people who know about the science around it would say it's a stage 4 level cancer. Even if people will say that it has a vegetation of 97%, if you look at that vegetation breakdown, yun yung pinakahuling report the last typhoon, 11-20% lang dyan yung actual na forest. No? The rest of it would be damo, which of course does not say anything about the health of your forest. It's 11-20% forested. That's what the science says, at least for the Upper Marikina watershed. And many local and international studies already show not just the benefits of protecting that ecosystem for those living around it, but also how deforestation that occurs in those parts actually influence flooding events that happen downstream, going through the Marikina River, the Pasig River, all the way out to the Manila Bay. So much so that the impact area of making sure that this watershed is healthy actually goes out to support 20 million Filipinos downstream. So I could go on and on with this, but because you like numbers and I'm not really great at that, I'd like to go you through some studies that the World Bank has done specifically for the Upper Marikina. No? And the numbers aren't basic. If you restore this watershed even just to up to 70%, it already has the capability of reducing floodwater from upstream, going downstream by up to 47%. And that says a lot when it comes to the flooding events that could happen downstream. It can also delay peak flows by 3 to 5 hours. And when it comes to disaster resilience, that's game-changing. It might seem ridiculous here to say that erosion control for high slopes would be reduced by 100 times, but that's exactly what we experienced restoring the area. When we had typhoons as of late, yes, ang grabe yung siltation, yung mga nangyaring pagguho ng lupa. But in the areas that we have restored, the next day was a normal day as usual. It was quite magical. And if you want to look at numbers, the siltation control capability of a healthy watershed can be equivalent to up to 10,500 dams. 10,500 dams, guys. Assuming it's a small impounding dam that costs just a measly 500,000 pesos, which we all know is not just the case, that's already 4 billion pesos plus in cost. And then we talk about the annual maintenance of 2 billion pesos a year. Then we talk about the fact that that will depreciate in 8 years' time compared to your green infrastructure and forests that will stay healthy and provide you with more in 8 years' time, in a decade's time, in a century's time. So if you look at this photo, it will show you why restoring this ridge at the bottom is so critical for Metro Manila. If you know, you don't need to see the numbers. If you level off these mountains, if you remove the forest cover, it's pretty clear that it will redound to the city and itself. And I could tell a lot around why we reached the point of having the agreement that we have. But basically, to shorten things, because it hasn't worked in the past. In these parts, land grabbing is so prolific, and so it is for a lot of areas near the metro. So much so that even when the Secretary of Environment, over 4 of them have written orders to save these parts of the watershed, nothing happened sa baba ng DENR. No? So that's what they initially tried. Within the DENR, yung solution later on, there have been mechanisms to try it with the local government unit. Later on, there are also attempts to do it with a protected area management board. And as multi-sectoral as it looks, from at face value, if you look at who holds most of the roles in a protected area management board, it goes back to the same people. No? So halimbawa, in the Upper Marikina watershed, if you have 17 seats, 13 would be provincial government and below. No? So depending on the political circumstances, that could mean just the decision of one person representing 13, 14 seats. And that's how we ended up with the Masungi agreement that we have. And these things we can discuss later on, but there are many reasons why we should pursue innovations and conservation, area-based conservation in this country, considering the opportunities that we have for biodiversity, considering the fact that for the 3rd year in a row, we are, the world's most at-risk country to the climate crisis. What has the project done by far? I'm not sure how much time I have left. We're lucky because we've made some significant strides. The favorite of ours is the fact that we caused the cancellation of 3 quarries that were set to level of 1,300 hectares of this watershed, together with 70 environment organizations, 8 mayors, and a lot of help from ordinary people in the background. This is big because I think this is not something that you generally get accomplished in 2 years' time. You have moratoriums, you get the ECC canceled. This time, the agreements were canceled altogether. We have been able to overcome 6 large-scale land grabbing attempts, some very, very colorful stories. Planted and nurtured 140,000 native trees. We could really do more, no? Pero we don't want to do this just for PR purposes. We know that if you can't secure the land, nothing will become of any tree that you plant. So never skip that step. Establish 12 monitoring stations across the reforestation site. Have 15 kilometers of trails maintained while everyone was at home. During the pandemic, we were out here at the front lines battling illegal groups who wanted to take advantage of poor enforcement. And engage over 100 locals as rangers on the field. So like I said, this is something that we did with many, many different organizations, government and international groups who've supported the work that we do. We've received a number of awards in recent time because of this. And tanggalin na natin yan, no? The most significant threat that we face, and you can imagine there's already education, there's already livelihood, there's already broad sector support. And usually these are the arguments given for a conservation project not to prosper. Right? So what is it now that's threatening Masungi and hindering this project, the scaling of these kinds of models? Well, because after we had those 3 quarries canceled, all of a sudden there's a move to cancel our project instead. Now, and if this project is canceled, it will of course erase the gains that we've made from the last 5 years. This watershed area will be left with no one to protect it, making it vulnerable again to the same groups who have caused its deterioration in the last years. And as one of the largest civil society projects in the Philippines, this of course sets the movement for ecosystem restoration and private partnerships back when it comes to the restoration movement. I haven't elaborated on this enough, but aggression and violence against environment defenders will also, of course, worsen. This is something that I'm concerned with day in and day out. It may be very far from you, but for us in the front lines, this is a huge risk. No? The Philippines is the deadliest place for environment defenders in Asia and always one of top 5 globally. Most of them are in Latin America, then out pops the Philippines. So that is definitely one thing that we would want to improve, right? If we want to be able to pursue nature-based solutions genuinely. And there's so many other things that's written out in my presentation, but because I think we're almost out of time, we can just do questions later. If there's any call to action on my part, in general, and particularly for Masungi, it's one to make sure that you ground yourself in learning about the places that you operate in. It's one thing to know the numbers and the processes. It's one thing to actually understand the areas you're operating on. And that understanding is very important. You can't talk about sustainability as if it's a theory to be followed. If you really want to sustain what's around, what's in the areas that you're moving in, then you better know what it is that needs sustaining, right? So I encourage you to do that. You can start by visiting Masungi. You can start by learning more about the watersheds that your businesses actually rely on. 2 would be to use the force of your wallet. After all, you are finance practitioners. You hold a lot of capital in this country. And there's nothing more long-lasting in the Philippines than market forces, maybe even more powerful than political forces. So use that for good. Maybe it be when it comes to the investments that you make or the divestments that you choose, right? Divestments, that's one thing that is worth reflecting on. For Masungi, it could be as simple as a grant for the ecosystem restoration work that we're doing. You can adopt a hectare. You could you could ask me about that later on. Or simply making the stations of our rangers safer so that they could, continue this vocation that we're all benefiting from. No? And I know I have a third, and it would probably be to leverage on your networks and the power that you have locally. Making the right connections so that environment defenders, have the community and the support that they need, may it be social or politically. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. So I'm Rudy Ramin. I'm the commercial director for PCX. And that was really very inspiring. I feel like I want to defend the environment too and the Masungi Reserve. I'll talk about another aspect of climate and sustainability. So it's really about leading the fight against plastic pollution. For the Philippines, it is a business imperative. It's not just something that we just want to do. So I am again part of PCX. So let's try this one. Okay. So PCX Markets, our mission, we are a mission-driven organization. Our mission is not to have plastic end up in nature. We were founded by Nanette Medvedpo. It's really a Philippine company and now it's global. So her headquartered in Singapore, our CEO is in the US. We are present in at least 8 countries with projects in 13. And the focus is really, we know plastic is an important material. It's not evil, it's really a material that helps transport a lot of products. It's better than most materials in terms of footprint. But if left untreated and unprocessed, it will just go to landfill and it can seep into our food and it can be microplastic. So our goal is really to enable the businesses, companies that you are part of as finance professionals, to be responsible for your plastic waste management, right? So happy and thankful that FINEX invited me. I was just telling Edith that my last FINEX event was 25 years ago when I was still an accounting student. So this is actually a blast from the past for me. Moving to the next slide. So as I was saying, it's an important innovation, plastic, but it has been mismanaged. So you currently have 9 billion tons of plastic in the world that is sitting in our oceans, rivers, or just around their environment. And if we just continue with how we are producing and using plastic, it will be 17 billion more. And if you look at the global state of plastic, actually, only 9% is recycled, unfortunately. With all the talk about recycling, only 9% of plastic is recycled, 19% is incinerated, and 72% is dumped into garbage or garbage dumps or nature. So you really can imagine if this plastic, this material, can last for 200 years, it will just stay in the earth, right? So it was a great innovation, but if left by itself, then it will actually be a scourge for the planet. So move to the next slide. And we are saying, actually, we talk about carbon all the time. We had so many global treaties on carbon. But actually, the plastic crisis is also the carbon crisis. Plastic pollution is equal to carbon emissions. If you think about virgin production of plastic, it creates a lot of carbon emissions. And if each plastic material is just used by itself, single use, then it just continues to emit more pollution. And the plastic itself emits chemicals in the air that increases our carbon footprint. Ocean, there are a lot of plastic that leaks into the ocean, and actually the ocean is one of the largest carbon sinks. But if we have plastic polluting the ocean, that it reduces the way that it can reduce carbon. So it's a very linked environmental issue. And that is why, actually, if you go to the next slide, there is a global call to action on plastic waste. So the world has woken up that you cannot just let plastic pollution go unabated. So in 2022, there is a landmark agreement globally that it aims to have a global plastics treaty enacted in 2025. So it's not all doom and gloom. Actually, we have all woken up. The Philippines by itself is, I think, the 3rd biggest polluter in the world. So we are in the top 10. There were reports that we are number 1, but actually we are not number 1, we're number 3. And there is really a momentum to regulatory compliance. Actually, we are already, the last leg of the treaty development is going to be in November in Busan, South Korea. The goal is to have a treaty in place so that countries can start enacting laws that will help prevent plastic pollution. So that's a great step. Even other stakeholders and investors are demanding action. So we know that the consumers more and more, maybe less in the Philippines, but more and more are concerned about sustainable practices. Actually, if we think of plastic packaging, it's mostly with consumer products and goods. So I came from my first 14 years of my career after KPMG has been with consumer goods companies, Unilever, Mondelez. And when Nanette met me last year to actually pitch to me the job in PCX, she knew that I had penance to do because I've sold a lot of products with plastic packaging. And I understand. I was there sitting in decision-making meetings on why we should provide low cash outlay products, sachets, right? In the Philippines, we are a big sachet economy. And I remember my last project in Unilever was a single piece Nor Cube. And that's available around, in the public markets. From paper board, now I have plastic and one piece because we were really thinking of providing quality products to the bottom of the pyramid. That's really the thinking. Not really thinking about the impact to the environment of what will happen to the plastic after it is sold to the market. So now everyone has woken up, at least a lot of people have woken up. 6 out of the 10 top consumer products goods companies have commitments on plastic reduction. Next slide. Let's look at the Philippine context. How are we doing? Actually, we have 2,150 tons of annual plastic consumption. Unfortunately, only 9% is recycled and 35% leaks to the open environment. So if you are a diver or you like going to the beach, you really can see physically, visibly, plastic all over. Or even if you just walk to, to the material recovery fund, a recovery facility, it's a lot of plastic and we don't really segregate, right? So even if laws are already passed on the days that you can take out specific types of garbage, we don't follow it. So there really is poor waste management in the Philippines. And there are a lot of laws globally on plastic waste management. They're called the extended producer responsibility, but most are modeled in countries where there is very efficient and effective waste management systems. Next slide. So, surprisingly and pleasantly surprisingly, the Philippines has enacted the extended producer responsibility law in 2022. It's a landmark law globally because we are one of the countries that have devised a certain kind of EPR that is fitting for countries with poor waste management systems. We cannot follow Belgium, Korea, Australia because only 55% of our waste is formally collected. We don't have proper MRFs, we don't have proper segregation facilities. So what is interesting here is, one, so the government has decided that they will make it very clear who is an obliged enterprise. I was just talking over lunch with someone in the event. If you are a brand owner, an importer, and as long as you are a large enterprise with business with assets over 100 million, less land, then you are an obliged enterprise. That means you are part of the law, and this very clearly stated that if you don't follow the law, there are penalties. First penalty is not so low. It's 5 to 10 million pesos, right? And the first year of compliance was last year. It's already the second year this year. Moving to the next slide. What is interesting here is that the Philippines has decided, one, you have to declare your plastic footprint. So SGV, I think EY, PwC, a lot of companies have, audit companies have supported their clients on footprint audits. So you have to know as a company what's your total plastic footprint. And then from there, you have to do recovery and waste diversion. So the Philippines is one of the countries with the most aggressive waste recovery targets. Last year, a company needs to divert 20% of their footprint. This year, it's 40%. And by 2028, it's 80%. What does that mean? Does it mean that you now have, as a company, to create a waste management department? No. You can actually assign companies to do the waste diversion for you. So they are now like a market model, an ecosystem of players, collectors, co-processors, recyclers, and upcyclers that do the waste collection, segregation, and processing so that the plastic will not go into nature. So the companies who are an obliged enterprise actually needs to support these collection efforts so that they don't have to go around and try to collect their post-consumer plastic waste by themselves. So it really becomes like a market model. And all of this is independently audited by a third party and submitted to the government. So PCX, because we are trying to enable the ecosystem in the countries that we are in, is a producer responsibility organization. We support around 120 companies in EPR compliance so that we help and become their business partners in ensuring that in the terms of plastic waste management, they are following the law, of course, but at the same time, we can help them with projects that will get them to go beyond compliance. If you're a company that really cares about sustainability, and plastic is one of the key issues for you, because let's say you are selling products in plastic packaging, we really are aiming to help you and become your extended team. So next slide, what has happened? Because this is already year 2, in 2023 alone. So the DNR said in their audit, in their review, there should be 2,130 obliged enterprise. We had 44% or 947 companies submitting their EPR program, right? So we have in our portfolio 120 plus. In total, because we also work on waste diversion with companies, even if they're not members, I think we work with around 170 companies. So 947 have registered, so only 44%. Where is the other 56? I think some are listening in Zoom, some are in this room. So I hope that you will submit your EPR program. You can either submit your program to the DNR as a company by yourself, as a collective, or through a PRO like PCX. 486,000 metric tons was the reported footprint of the 44%. And to make it simpler, because I think what I like, and this is really a pleasant surprise to me, when the DNR, or at least the Congress, passed the law on EPR, they wanted to make it simpler so that people can follow the law simply. So there are only 2 classifications of plastic. So flexibles, which are the soft plastic, normally this low value plastic, it's very difficult to recycle. And then rigids, which is more your PET, HDPE. Those already have some value with junk shops. But you can see the split, 55% are rigids and 45% are flexibles. So this number, although it's not yet verified, so DNR, when they're presenting this, will always say to be validated. But we are sure of the numbers from PCX, actually, and we work very closely with the other PRO farms. 163,000 kilos, right? 163,000 metric tons. So 163 million kilos did not go into nature because of the EPR law. And that is really a huge achievement coming from zero. So a lot of countries, not just our neighbors like Indonesia, like Vietnam followed suit the year after, but Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, everyone is looking at the Philippines as the case study of how a developing country where you don't have all the budget on waste management can actually fight plastic pollution. So our DNR colleagues, when they go to the global treaty, are actually like stars. Everyone is talking to them and trying to get the learnings. And we also feel proud as an enabler because it really requires everyone to work together, right? When I talk to, my main job is to talk to the companies, right? I talk to the consumer goods companies, the retail companies. Actually, most of the professionals, the executives, when I talk to them, they want to comply and they want to do the right thing. I think it's great that there is a law that enables them to do that. Plus, to make it easier for them to justify to their board why they have to have this extra expense. I think, of course, there are some who don't really, see this as just a another compliance project. But really, if you think about it, you are responsible and you are profiting from the products that you are selling to the market. So you should be responsible for its collection and recovery. So this law is actually making it easier so that you don't have to go around collecting your own plastic packaging. So 163,000, and hopefully next year or this year, you will have more, the increase of compliance companies. Actually, we have been supporting companies that miss the deadline so that they will not get the 5 to 10 million peso penalty. The DNR is set to issue notice of non-compliances in Q4. That's what we've heard. So I think all of the 44% are also clamoring for some heads to roll because they have worked so hard to comply. So I think it's a bright spot. Like it's really something that makes me want to go to talk to more companies because it's simple enough, it's clear enough, and hopefully we are able to spread the message outside of the Philippines. So I am building a team, for example, in Indonesia, Vietnam, hopefully Malaysia and Thailand, because those are all in the top 10 plastic pollution countries. Next slide. Yeah. So this is really the thought of the DNR Secretary, Antonia Yulo Loizaga. And maybe to shorten the message, it's really about collective effort from all stakeholders. We need everyone to work together. Local government, obliged enterprise, PROs, even the informal sector, the waste collectors who help segregate and pick our waste in different areas. And these partnerships will really help us to manage the pollution that we ourselves are creating. So because plastic is new, right? It's like a 50-year invention. And hopefully, we become really the generation that helps clean up plastic pollution. So my last statement, I think, before we go into the Q&A, is if you are part of a company or know of companies that are obliged enterprises, or you are supporting, your EPR team, please continue to support them. If you have not registered, just send me a note or go to DNR. I think they are really making it easy for companies to actually comply. They hope that before they issue the notice of non-compliance, you have signified your interest to comply because it is not so difficult anymore. We are making it also easier for companies to do that. But I think hopefully the Philippines will be like a lighthouse project that will shine the light on how to solve plastic pollution globally. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Benji, Mr. Paco, and Miss Anne, and lastly, Mr. Rudy, for your inspiring and insightful presentations. I thank again the sponsors, SGV and Carmen's Best. And now I will turn you over to Ms. Katrina F. Francisco of SGV and Co., Climate Change and Sustainability Services Partner, for the Q&A and panel discussion. Take it away, Ms. Katrina.
Sorry. Is there? Hello. Take there. So good afternoon to all. And it's both an honor and a privilege to be able to welcome you to today's panel discussion on the topic climate risks and opportunities building climate change resilience. So as you've all heard already, climate change is not a distant threat. It is here, it's impacting us already, and the increasing frequency of extreme weather events demand our immediate action. However, within these challenges also lie incredible opportunities. So opportunities for innovation, for economic transformation, and to be able to build a more sustainable and resilient future for all. So as you've seen already, we are joined by a distinguished panel of experts are here already, and through their perspectives, we aim to shed light on the effective strategies, innovative solutions, and collaborative efforts that can help us to mitigate risks and seize the opportunities for building a resilient future for all. Okay, so let's now start our panel discussion. Since we have shorter time for the panel, I think what I'll do is we'll have one question at least for each one, and then we'll have a closing question. And we'll try to see if we can still manage a question from the audience, okay? Let's probably start with Paco, okay?
Ladies first. Okay.
No, it's okay. Don't worry. So, what you have presented already shows to us what you're doing in relation to Carmen's Best to ensure that it will thrive in the future. And looking also at the website, what the story of Carmen's Best is really about innovation. Innovation so that you are able to not just initially sell milk, but also go into dairy products already. So in the context of climate change, how do you see the role of innovation in the food industry, particularly in the dairy sector, in building resilience against climate risks and ensuring sustainability?
Thank you for the question. With regards to ice cream production, it has to be a certain temperature when you're manufacturing ice cream. In fact, even the utensils and the containers that ice cream is placed in has to be frozen, because if it's room temperature, it starts to melt the ice cream. So these were things that I realized that it's hard to compromise the temperature. So with solar and the difference in temperature from being in a tropical country to trying to reach -8 or -16 temperature, the gap is so big. It's difficult to rely on solar for that, in fact, close to impossible. But for temperatures for chilled, whether it's +2 or 4 degrees, I've seen delivery vehicles in the Netherlands that kaya yung solar panels for refrigerated temperature. So I think moving forward, part of the logistics or part of the manufacturing or even the office part can be powered through solar, but other parts it might be challenging to reach those temperatures with just plainly using solar. With regards to packaging, Carmen's Best is now using an all carton package because a few years ago our lid was plastic, but the body was carton. So we're also looking to be more sustainable with our packaging, our processing, and even the sourcing of our ingredients.
Okay, thank you for that. To Anne. So the Masungi Geo Reserve is a very good example of conservation in action. And you've already shown that earlier. From your experience, what are the most effective strategies so that you are able to engage the local communities and the stakeholders in conservation?
Most effective strategies. Well, first I want to highlight how important it is, not just because we need awareness, but also because it's a form of checks and balances on the ground. That's one of the unknown benefits of having a national park system. The visibility that having more people on the ground gives to very and highly at-risk remote spaces, right? That's not something that we have in the Philippines yet. That's why a lot of people could get away with false information around the state of our forests, the health of our watersheds, right? So that's one thing that we're able to hurdle because of the awareness building efforts that we're running. What we find to be very effective, honestly, is always showing and not telling, delivering results and having action to support what you say instead of simply making claims. There's nothing more credibility building, the resilience building in an organization as that. Part of the reason why, despite a climate of disinformation, it's been hard to, and considering everything we have been assailing for enforcement, that we're still here is because of the community of supporters we have around Masungi, because of how transparent and visible our efforts have been. So much so that if someone says one thing, it's very easy for them to see for themselves how we're doing it differently. I hope that answers you.
Yes, it does.
So the trails, yung mga experiences on the ground, that helps a lot. Yeah.
So meaning going to Masungi is going
to Masungi is important in that sense, no? Because you get a glimpse of the realities of the place.
Okay, thanks for that. We go now to Rudy before we go to Benji. So for Rudy, you've already shown earlier the initial actions towards of private sector as well as the other sectors in relation to the EPR law. But I guess I just wanted to know what challenges have you encountered so that you get to those particular figures?
Of course, the biggest challenge is apathy. Like, we've been doing business like this for 10, 20, 50 years, that plastic, whatever waste we put out, that is the government's responsibility. But I really think if it goes back to us as citizens, as human beings, to be really responsible for what we do in the earth. I think the law, so I'm dealing with countries that really have no strong EPR law. That's even more difficult. At least in the Philippines, there is a law that if you don't follow, potentially you will get fined. But globally, if companies really are not obliged to do something about their packaging, then they will just focus on profit, right? Because that's the profit motive. That's what they owe their short shareholders. So it takes a few people with very strong will to really recognize the impact that their products or their packaging is doing to the community that they are supposed to serve. And it takes the governments of this world to actually also take action, because it's so easy. For example, to name a country, Indonesia, huge country, almost 2.5 times the size of the Philippines in terms of population. They had an EPR law in 2019. And before they passed the ETR law, it was clear there were penalties if you don't follow. But when it was passed, no penalties. Lo and behold, only 36 companies have registered. Right? The government is telling them, their DENR is telling everyone that it is mandatory, but no one believes it because there is no penalty. So there was a gap, right, in that system. And in the Philippines, at least there is a penalty, there's clarity, and hopefully most companies will really model the behavior that you are not just supposed to provide profit for your shareholders or your investors, but really think about your impact to the environment and the community that you serve.
Thank you for that, Rudy. Before we go to the audience, maybe one last question to Benji. So in your role in PSRC as well as a partner in SGB, and you've gone through like so many meetings or visits with various companies, what can you say is the issue or the challenge that companies face where you can critically assist them so that they are able to address that particular issue? What is the biggest, let's say, issue or challenge that they are facing where you can assist them?
Okay, did you put me on the last because it's difficult? Yeah, well, based on my observation, there's acceptance already. That's a good start, no? At the board level, senior management level, and companies also make efforts to create awareness within the organization. So even employees are aware of the risk and opportunities around climate. But the problem is executives, I guess, don't know where to start. I guess that's a problem. They know there's risk, they have to do something, but always the problem is where to start. And what I've seen for those more mature companies, they're very heavy at the top. I mean, there's a buy-in, there's support from the top. Even the boards, it's a normal board meeting agenda, climate risk and opportunities. And they put metrics, so they're very serious. Now, it's not just a narrative or story they want to put on their sustainability reports to look good, but they're very serious. They put targets and they continuously monitor their progress towards their targets. So that means they're serious and committed. And it's not a show for them. It's not a marketing agenda for them. And other companies also take it to the next level where even compensation, its management compensation is hinged on ESG KPIs. So that means they're serious in this business. But the problem is, going back to your question, how to start? Climate, ESG, it's a big topic. But my suggestion, and I guess this is where consultants can help, is really to make a inward assessment of what's material to the organization. Because definitely we will, or companies will not address all issues around sustainability. They have to choose their battles also and choose what's material to the organization and to their stakeholders.
Thank you for that. Maybe we can go to the audience. I think there are two questions now. Okay, sure.
One for Matt.
Okay.
I just want to find out why Secretary Tony Loizaga is so against the Masumi Geo Reserve.
Yes.
And my next question, okay.
Very controversial question. Please, you can get the next question.
You want to answer your question first?
Answer yes, it's on.
That is a wonderful question, no? Because despite attempts to reach her and despite my presence in conferences and the DNR, just to dialogue and to discuss this information that's swirling with her, she has not allowed us to have a dialogue with her. Not a single dialogue. And honestly, it's been bubbling for the environment sector because even when she applied, we were vouching for her. We all thought that she knew the science. That's what she brands herself as, the science around things. We have to remember, science is also based on evidence and lived experiences. And that's exactly what we are about. That's why we asked her to come and see the project in the field. And yet she hasn't. We know that we're stepping on the toes of certain businesses. These aren't upstanding businesses. These are illegal groups who have been making clearly illegal activities on the ground that need to be. Ayan, ganyan pa ako pinipigilan na. So it is bubbling for us, and we cannot have that, no? We're in the midst of a climate emergency. We're making all of these commitments. We have so much financial investments coming in. So we should learn to collaborate, as she says there should be. Why? I can only read between the lines. No, I don't want to say anything outwardly, but no dialogue happening with businesses who they do not want to enforce on. 3, when it comes to handling land, we are a model of innovations on how forest land, protected area land should be managed and how we can counter exposures that lead to these from getting gazetted for use later on.
Thank you, Anne. My next question is for Rudy. Actually, it's not a question. It's we have this NGO in Mabini, which is actually known as Anilao, called Pure Oceans. I don't know if you heard of them. Okay, so Pia Rojas Ocampo, what she does is educate the local people. She buys the plastic from them, okay, and then she brings it to somewhere in Bataan or somewhere, and they convert it into school chairs, no? And she's been very successful at that because she actually buys the plastic from the local people. So that's the way she encourages segregation of plastic. No? Now you have to understand in that area, aside from it's very popular with scuba divers, a lot of ferries pass through that area. So that's where the plastic is coming from. And it really pollutes there. So what she does, she encourages everybody to gather the plastic and actually recycle them by selling it to them, in which case we sell now to the recycling plant. Why can't we do the same thing, multiply this throughout the country to make it easier on the local level?
Sir, thank you for the question. I know Pia Rojas Ocampo actually. I've worked with her. She's an advertising executive before, right? So Pure Oceans is a good example of what the EPR law can enable, because if they register as an upcycler, for example, either through PCX or other companies, they can get funding through the waste diversion budgets of companies. So I actually saw her and her partner in the Look Forward, the DNR launch event in 2023. And I saw the upcycled materials. So these are the ones that this ecosystem is what EPR is supposed to enable. And I think their team is already like in the early adopters, really inspiring communities to support recycling and upcycling through their own collection. So we hope that if they need funding, then they can just be an upcycler and get funding from waste from the EPR budgets of companies.
Importers. So you're talking about the requirements for manufacturers and local companies. And I know that we want more manufacturers, and yet I believe in what we're doing for
for the environment with the manufacturers. How about importations?
Imports, as long as you're the brand owner, whether you're manufacturing it or you're importing it, then you are responsible. That's the part of the law.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you're talking about brand products.
Yes.
How about agricultural products?
So as long as it goes to the consumer, because the EPR law is post-consumer plastic waste.
Okay,
So if it is an industrial plastic waste, that's covered by another law. But the new law is more about post-consumer plastic waste.
thank you. That's reassuring. Thank
Yes.
you.
Okay, maybe before we end, can we just ask for a few more words from our panelists? What can possibly be the action that other companies can take out of this particular panel discussion so that we can move forward in relation to this issue?
Speaking from a plastic standpoint, I really encourage with the reporting standards that will come, because it's now should be discussed as part of the KPIs of business leaders, right? I grew up in a world where the only thing that matters is your market share and your profitability. And then there is CSR, right? So that someone else does. But I think more and more people, business leaders, are recognizing that we have only one world. We had the pandemic, everyone is affected. If there is a climate crisis, there is like a nature emergency, we are all affected, and we are all part of this ecosystem. So my message is, if, for example, in plastic, your company is an obliged enterprise, please make sure that you register and support the law. If you have already done it, I really encourage you to go beyond compliance. There's more to do aside from just paying for your plastic waste diversion. And I can see a lot of companies are already starting to do that. So I hope that the Philippines becomes a model of where we are able to have a clear multi-sectoral solution to plastic pollution.
Okay, thank you for that. Benji,
Rudy,
keep it short,
that's,
please.
That's a lot of words, Rudy, so I'll make mine short. Yeah, it's good that we have the EPR law, and we also have a pending bill in Congress, because we need laws and regulations to be catalysts for all these changes. But again, going back, we cannot just rely on government regulations and be reactive to these regulations, because market will also catch up. Consumer buying behavior will also catch up. Employees their engagements also get affected, whether you're practicing sustainability or not, and all other stakeholders. So in short, for businesses to survive and thrive, they have to really embrace sustainability and be at the front line, be proactive in addressing the risk and opportunities.
Thank you for that, Benji. And
I'll be more blunt. You can't leave it to compliance, because sometimes even when you have the laws, implementation won't be there. So it's really up to you to make this happen and to understand what we're currently faced with as humanity, right? And there's really no way to go but to respond in the ways we already know we should be responding, diba? It's really a very moral choice for me at this time, and everyone has that responsibility towards each other. So go past compliance, right? I mean, we have so many laws. We're always number one for that. We're always leading when it comes to that. We're all nagkakatalo lagi sa implementation, and there's so much that we can do as ordinary people to take that forward. Also, more proactively to support nature-based solutions. We can talk about carbon offsetting, we can talk about plastics. If we don't care about our life-giving ecosystems, it might be too late. There's a climate crisis, the bigger crisis is the biodiversity crisis, and we all need our heads on that one too. And everyone, no matter which professional field you're in, has something to contribute to that as well.
Paco?
Hirap naman to go after you. Parang nakuha mo na natin. But I'll speak on behalf of the dairy industry because in other countries, especially in Southeast Asia, there is a lot of support, government support. In Japan, they support the cattle farmers, and in other Southeast Asian countries, the dairy farmers. But in the Philippines, we have just about zero support from the government. And coming from dairy, starting a business from scratch, we don't have the advantage of having a volume in terms of buying packaging or buying equipment. No? So if there's some sort of support or help, because aside from us, there's a lot of other people in the dairy industry. So I think some type of support or tax break for people in industries that are in maybe agriculture or like dairy, that would be a big help for us.
Thank you for that. So just to close our discussion, so hopefully our discussion was able to emphasize the urgency relation to climate action so that we're able to build more resilience within our businesses. And the critical need for, again, what we have already mentioned, the collaboration that's needed, as well as what impact each one of us can bring to build more resilience in the future. So as we leave this room, let's carry with us the responsibility to act in relation to this. You've already heard them, go beyond compliance, as Anne has mentioned, and the courage to innovate and the spirit of cooperation. So again, thank you to our panelists and thank you to each and every one of you for your engagement and commitment. Thanks.
There you go. Wow, that concludes our day 2 of FINEX Week. And again, I'm Riza Blanco Latorre. I'm the co-chair of FINEX Week and the chairman of the Good Governance Committee. Our esteemed guests delivered truly inspiring and encouraging message this afternoon. And I hope that everyone who's here in the room and those present in the Zoom were able to identify not just the risks, but also the opportunities that we can take back to our respective organizations and even our homes. So thank you, Benji, for trying to make sustainability reporting more integrated and aligned with financial reporting. While admittedly, this is going to be challenging in terms of compliance, I believe that it will be very helpful for users of the financial statements like us here in FINEX, more equipped in their strategic planning, risk management, and business decision-making. Thank you, Anne, Rudy, Paco, for sharing your equally inspiring, I think inspiring is an understatement, I should say. And I think we feel it all here in this room. Inspiring stories and insights on how we can bring this forward. Thank you to Ina for efficiently managing the discussion. I know it's challenging because of the limited time, but you were able to make it. Thank you so much. But before we leave this room, I would like to ask all of us, why? Why do we have to talk about this? Why do we have to discuss all these issues? And why in FINEX we decided to continue to carry this theme year after year? Because we need to do something. But why? Why? We always have to ask ourselves why. Because climate change impacts us. It already affected us yesterday. It is affecting us now. And may not just affect us tomorrow, but destroy all of us. We've been talking about climate risks and challenges using our perspective as business people, but allow me shortly to take this a little bit closer to home. Who could forget the Typhoon Yolanda that hit the southern part of the country in 2013 and destroyed Tacloban City?
I cannot, because it happened on my birthday that year. Instead of us celebrating, we as a family were distraught. We felt so helpless and confused because our family was there in Tacloban, where my husband was born and raised. We lost all contact with our parents and siblings. The only information we had were from the devastating news, which obviously did not help the family. When we finally revived contact with our family, heartbreaking news, one after another came. A family friend who owns and lives in a beach resort where we frequented when on vacation refused to leave his house, got swept by the tides, and never found. My husband's classmate tried to protect his family by checking in a nearby hotel, expecting that the hotel is high enough, sturdy enough to protect the family. Unfortunately, the water went up to the 5th floor of the hotel. The family, the husband, the wife, and the 2 children got drowned and died. Let me take this a little bit closer. My mother-in-law, who happened to be visiting relatives from another town before the typhoon, had to travel by foot for 1 whole day to be able to go back home. On her way back, she would find dead, decaying people and rotting animals on the street, just like what we see in zombie movies. I could not comprehend the suffering and horror that my 70-year-old mother endured that moment. But we're still grateful she made it home. But I don't want to leave you with a sad note kasi sayang naman yung happy hormones that Carmen's Best gave us during our lunch. But I just want to emphasize that we need to do something, either in our professional or personal capacities. And the time is now. I believe many of us, if not all of us, are in the middle of our planning and budgeting process in our respective organizations. We sincerely hope that everything we learn today, we can and we will integrate to our corporate strategies to deliver not just business growth, but sustainable growth. As what we have learned yesterday from the Deputy Ambassador White, he said that it's either sustainable growth or no growth at all. We don't have to engage in grand heroic actions to participate in change. Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. That's not my own, but it was said by Howard Zinn. Okay, lastly, on behalf of our FINEX President, Mr. Toti Bengson, FINEX Week Co-Chair, Ms. Marica Reyes, and our Liaison Director for FINEX Week, Ms. Mignon Ramos, our sincere gratitude to everyone who have made this day 2 of FINEX Week a really successful and encouraging and inspiring event. Thank you to the Board of Trustees of FINEX Foundation, Attorney Ebot Tan, to the Liaison Director of Good Governance Committee and Director of FINEX, Ms. Edith Estacio, to the Chairperson of Environment Committee, Mr. Elros Page, to the Vice Chairpersons of Good Governance Committee, Mr. Reggie Gripal and Mr. Christopher Catalan. And thank you to SGV for allowing us to use this beautiful place, and to Carmen's Best for bringing us ice cream this for our lunch. Really, true to its word, the best ice cream in town. Okay, thank you so much for everyone, and to the FINEX directors who tirelessly supporting us and made it to our event today. Thank you so much, and to the rest of the FINEX Week Committee. Thank you. We encourage everyone to join us again tomorrow and for the rest of the FINEX Week Conference. Good afternoon.
Speaker.